And then let's think just about the advances in technology. So you guys talked about, and I'm glad you brought this up, was that you're right, technology has evolved a lot faster than we have, in the sense of like we have the same brains as our ancestors did, essentially like the same hardware, human hardware. But technology has evolved far faster. If you guys are familiar with Moore's laws, so the number of transistors we're able to put in a circuit, it also doubles every 2 years, while the price of the same computer is halved every 2 years. So that was a model observed by this guy. I believe his full name, I don't know, but anyhow, his last name was Moore. And so this was observed back in 1960 something, and that's been true every year since then. And it's been in like a straight line pretty much in that direction for the speed by which technology has grown. And so you just look at what that affords us. And so with the technological advances comes the advances in medicine. So when I was reading Money Master the Game, they have a whole chapter talking about the future and how optimistic it could be. So when that book was published a few years ago, they were talking about this new innovation called the skin gun. So for burn victims, they were able to get cells and print cells inside of the person, on the person's skin, to cover them with their own DNA in order for them to not reject it, so for their body to fully accept it and not to get infections. That was years ago. So if you look back at, like, if you told somebody that was going to be a thing in 1920, they would look at you like you were crazy. And also we look at prosthetics. Prosthetics have come a huge way from what they used to be in terms of like the articulation, the way that they can move, the way that they mimic the actual human motions. And then we look at even, I'm kind of reluctant to say the V word just because of censorship. I'm not saying anything controversial, but vaccines, for example, they've come a long way. Like our understanding of the human genome and just the speed by which we can in science understand and come up with a vaccine over that short of a period of time. Like we have to have a fundamental understanding of how the body works. And so over time, our understanding of that biology, all that medicine has increased. And so with those, I really have to say that I feel that life is getting easier. And I do think people are getting lazier. And I will say this, but I can understand the argument against that. But I really do think it depends largely on the time frame you're looking at. So of course, on the long scale, there's going to be ebbs and flows, I do feel. But if you just look at the individual's lifespan, like your life, in the micro, you could say, okay, Des, so you know that the recession's coming. We might be in the beginning stages of it. You could say we are, just because of what's going on. So you could look at that and say, okay, life is getting harder. But you know the market corrects itself just to be in financial terms. So over time, the chart looks like this. But now it might be dipping. So we might be experiencing one of the downturns and think that, okay, life is getting harder. And it could last longer than what you think. And it might not be strictly in terms of finance. It could be in terms of, like Des was saying, your 20s preparing you for your 30s. Maybe your 20s are rough, but you course correct and you start to improve and apply some of the lessons that you learned in your 30s, which is less than ideal, but it happens. And then same thing with 40s, 50s, 60s. Like what happens today was put in motion by things that occurred before.